Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Board with Each Other, the podcast that looks at board games and asks the question, how well does this play at two players? Whether that be with your significant other, your BFF, or that friend of yours that's eaten some interesting mushrooms and you need to calm them down by playing a soothing abstract strategy game. My name's Al Simpson, and as ever, I'm joined by my player two, lovely wife, Hannah Kelly.
Hi guys.
And today we are reviewing Mycelia, the strategic mushroom game released in 2024 by Splitstone Games, not to be confused with the other Mycelia released the year before by Ravensburger.
Is that
So,
not mycelium?
no, that's also Mycelia. They're called the exact same thing. There are two games called Mycelia released within a year of each other. We are doing the 2024 Splitstone Games version, just for clarity. In Mycelia, you take the role of
A mushroom.
well, no, not really a mushroom colony. Mycelia is played on a board that is constructed out of triangular shaped tiles. You start the game by forming a star shape out of all these tiles, and all of the tiles, well, not all the tiles, but the tiles come in different colors. To start the game, you place a token that represents your mother mushroom onto the board. That's basically your leader, for want of a better term. On your turn, you can take a variety of actions. Firstly, you can fruit a mushroom. So at the start of the game, you'll only have your mother mushroom on the board, and you roll a dice which represents the wind, and that dice will give you one of three symbols. On each of the tiles, there are three symbols, and you produce spores that then flow down the map, depending on what result you got on the wind die. Once you have fruited a mushroom, you can then use those spores to grow other mushrooms from your hand of cards. These mushrooms all come with costs, which will be a number, basically a number of pips of a certain color. So you need spores on the map that you can take away to pay the cost for each mushroom. Those spores only operate in the area of your network, so they must all be adjacent to each other, and they must not have an opponent's mother mushroom or mushroom in their space. Once you pay the cost of the card, you then place it onto one of your player boards, of which you have five. They are numbered 1 to 5, and each of them has slots along the top to represent how far your mushroom has decayed. Once you place the card down, when you fruit a mushroom in later turns, you move the pip one to the right. Once you've fruited a mushroom twice, you can decay it, which is another action. When you decay a mushroom, you take that card and you place it under that mat, and it will have an effect. It will either be a effect that affects your entire gameplay for the rest of the game. It'll be an effect that affects mushrooms that you then place down on one of those five boards, or it'll have an instant impact that will allow you to place tiles down or move somebody else's mushroom, etc. So that's fruiting, that's decaying. You can obviously obtain cards from a marketplace. There's a marketplace of three cards down in a deck. You can choose to take one of the available cards, or you can take the top card from the deck.
And the cards are all different mushrooms that you can grow.
Yes. You can move your mother mushroom up to 2 spaces. You cannot move through another person's mother mushroom.
Hmm.
And you can also explore, which means taking a new tile from the deck of tiles and making the board larger. You also have a free action to do with insects that you collect. Whenever a tile is put down with an insect icon on it, it gets an insect token. And if you move your mother mushroom through a space or land on a space with an insect token, you take it. You can use two of those insect tokens to move your opponent's mother mushroom any way you like, which is important late in the game because if an opponent moves their mother mushroom onto one of your normal mushrooms, you cannot do anything with it. It essentially blocks it and freezes it. So there's a big element of sort of area control and knowing when to stop your opponent's mushrooms being able to do anything.
You can also do other things with those insect tokens, so they count as victory points towards the end, and
Yeah,
other.
every two counts for a victory point.
Yeah, there are other things that you can do with
Yeah, I
them
think
as
you can do
well.
it to wipe a marker as well, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly. Play continues until everybody has a decayed mushroom in each of their 5 slots. There's no requirement to put mushrooms on different slots as you grow them. So the end of the game is very, very much within the player's sphere of control. You choose when you end the game. The person that does end the game takes a token which gives them 5 victory points at the end.
Hmm.
All of your mushrooms have a victory point total printed on them. Obviously, the person with the most wins the game.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The only thing worth mentioning, perhaps, is that each of your mushrooms will produce a different number of spores.
Yes, they
And
range from 1 to 4.
yeah, so you get more bang for your buck depending on the mushroom.
Mm.
And in terms, I guess, of playtime,
45 minutes, I would say,
yeah, that sounds
in
about
that
right.
realm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that do play.
Yeah, so this is one we picked up at UK Games Expo.
I've had my eye on it for a while.
Yeah, you saw it and you thought, oh, that looks really cool. And
Yeah,
you had your eye on it. And we saw the stand there at UK Games Expo and we picked up a copy.
yes. And we played it that evening.
Yeah, played it immediately in the pub at the hotel.
Yeah. Along with a lot of other board gamers that
Yeah,
sat
yeah,
around
yeah.
playing
Good
their
times.
newly acquired board
Uh,
games. And yeah, we've played it quite a bit since then.
yes, we have. So we thought we would give it a review.
Right. So, anything else before we move on to scoring?
Yeah, I just want to raise sort of a general point about this and just sort of a shout out. I do want to shout out the designer of this, JJ Neville, because as we'll get into, he's made a very interesting game, but he's also done all of the artwork for it.
So, not only is he a talented board game designer,
Uh-huh.
he's also a fabulous artist as well.
Yeah, so leave some talent for the rest of us, please, dude. I just think that's notable, and given what we're about to talk about, I think it's extra notable. So yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out for that.
Well, that brings us neatly on to our first category, which is the components. So, what's in the box? As you've hit on, this is absolutely stunning as
Mm.
far as games go.
Yeah,
Your colour scheme is really earthy and autumnal. The illustrations on each of the cards are really accurate, as far as I'm aware. I
Mm.
don't know a huge amount about
Do you
mushrooms.
not?
No, it's not. It's not one of the things that I know a lot about, but I think they're very accurate, and just really beautiful.
Yeah, the whole thing looks absolutely stunning.
Mhm.
Like it really does. It looks beautiful when it's out on the table. And the components definitely have a deluxe feel to them. Everything feels really, really nice.
The cards are really nice. You've got a lot of wooden counters, which are really lovely. I also really like the box insert, and in my head, I kind of really hope that it's made from like mushroom packaging.
Yeah, it's definitely a non-standard material
It's a
that's
non-standard
made.
material, and I don't want to know because I don't want it to ruin the illusion for me. But I really like to think that what's in the box is actually mushrooms.
But it's got a fantastic insert. Everything fits back absolutely
Mhm.
neatly where it should. And there's quite a bit, there's a fair amount of components. So
Yeah, and
it's
even
impressive.
down to like your insect counters, I think they're all unique.
I'm not sure there might
Or
be.
the
Yeah,
majority of them are
there's a
unique.
lot
There
of
might be
difference
some
there.
duplicates, but
Yeah.
even down to that level of detail,
Mm,
I just think there's a huge amount of love that's been put into this.
yeah, yeah. And any game that has its own little like thrown seat for the dice and the insert
Hmm.
always gets my vote. But yeah, it's a beautiful package. Really, really nice.
The only flaw that this
Mm.
game has is, as Al said, the board that you lay, all the tiles are triangular. You try and shuffle
Yeah,
triangular
I have no
tiles,
idea how to shuffle those
just throw them up in the air and hope for the best.
without pain and distress.
It's really
It's
difficult to
part of the
shuffle.
game. I get it. Like the game only works with triangular tiles, but my god, are they a pain to shuffle?
Even hexagons would be easier.
Yeah, but they wouldn't work. It's been designed around that shape, which I get. But yeah, it is a pain. But unfortunately, it's
Yeah, that
part of the
said, we tend to
experience.
just shuffle them, like as
We
in
just
deal them out really
yeah, we'll
as a
just
way to kind of shuffle
cut the
them.
decks 17 times or whatever.
But it's a very small point, and I do understand why it's been done because it makes this really lovely sort of growing, expanding
Yeah,
network.
yeah,
So I do get it.
yep. In terms of setup, really quick,
Yeah, really, really quick,
absolute
and
doddle.
also tear down as well. Also
Yeah,
really quick. And again, what's really helpful is everything fits in the box.
yeah. So it's a real joy to set up and tear down,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just a wonderful package. And I've given it a 9 as a result. So I think it's really up there with the ones that we own.
Yeah, so I gave it an 8 because I cannot shuffle the tiles,
Fair enough. Okay.
and I'm being really picky. But yeah, I think 9's a perfectly valid score as well.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so next up we have complexity, and as always, this isn't how complex a game is or isn't, but how well the complexity serves the gameplay. For me, this is an absolute gem of a
Yeah.
game in terms of that regard. It's really easy to teach.
Yep.
It's really straightforward. The only thing that's slightly complicated is around what constitutes your network
Yeah.
or in your network. But I think the rule book's got some really lovely examples to help explain that.
It does. Yeah, it does. I wouldn't say this is like super duper light. I think obviously we played a lot of board games, and if you try to teach this to a complete board game newbie, some of the aspects of it, I think, would be quite difficult for them to get their heads around, particularly like you say, the network,
Hmm.
um, and just understanding how the flow of spores happens when you roll the dice, etc. But that's necessary to
Yeah,
make it the game that it is.
because I guess what it doesn't lose is strategic depth
No,
as a result, and I
no,
think
no.
we'll probably come on to that. We'll talk about that more later on. But I definitely think it's quick to teach. I do think there is quite a rapid leveling up in terms of skills.
Yes.
So if you've played this a good few times and then you crack it out with your partner, then
And they haven't played it yet. You
there's
you
going
are
to be a
going to
learning
see a
curve.
skill gap quite quickly. I think
Yeah,
it is definitely a strategic abstract game, and
yeah.
as games of that ilk always go, you will get better at it. It's a game that you will get better at.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think the majority of the complexity from this experience comes from the strategic depth, as you said, and also how well your opponent's playing and
Hmm.
trying to outwit your opponent, not necessarily the rules. The rule book is exceptionally well written. Yet another thing to pin to Mr. Neville's. another.
The string to his bow,
That's the word I was looking
mushroom to
for.
his fairy circle.
Very good.
Mm.
It's. I think we've referred back to it once for an example around networks, but aside from that, it was one read through, and then we were away. We didn't know how to go back to the rules and scratch our heads about anything. And it's all really clearly laid out. So top marks for that.
It's even down to things like the upgrades that you get when you decay your mushroom,
Mm,
about thinking about whether you want to go for something that gives you a permanent like game upgrade and where you would then place that and how that might work with other upgrades.
mm.
It's just yeah, it's the gift that keeps giving.
It's very well designed.
It is a very well designed game, yeah.
So yeah, for complexity, I've given it an 8.
Yeah, also giving it an eight.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we have shelf life and value for money. So as
Mm.
always, how much does it cost?
So this retails for £50 or thereabouts.
Okay.
However, it's a little bit of a difficult one to answer because it's one of those cases where I think the majority of these were through Kickstarters.
Hmm.
I don't think there was an awful amount of stock at retail floating around. And at the time of recording, there's only one shop in the UK online you can buy it.
Well, that's a shame.
It is a shame. The stock has always been quite scarce with us. I imagine they'll go through print runs. I know there's an expansion coming up soon, so I assume there'll be another Kickstarter with the base game, and that will then bleed through to retail. But this is one of those cases where scarcity breeds closeness to the RRP, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. So with a lot of other like really easily available retail games, different shops will compete. This you're probably going to have to pay the
RRP.
recommended retail price, and the recommended retail price is about £50. With that said, the quality of what is in the box, I find hard to quibble with the price point.
Yeah, I do. Even a fiver off, I think, would make it that. I think 50 is
Definitely on the high
it's
side.
definitely on the high side. However, do I regret spending £50 on it? I don't know how much I spent. It
We
was
spent £50 on it. Yeah.
oh no, I'm saying sorry. I
Mhm.
just handed over the card, didn't
Oh
I?
well, yeah, it's UK
I
Games
was
Expo.
definitely
It's
quite happy.
like
Um, am I upset about that? No, I don't think I
no,
am. I think I'm quite happy
yeah.
in terms of what's in the box and in terms of the level of replayability that I think that we are going to or have already got and
Mm.
will already and will continue to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of those. It's an interesting debate with these kind of things because when you do go for something that's a little bit like Kickstarter and scarce, you've got to accept that you're going to pay a
Mhm.
little bit more for it. Can you get more bang for your £50 with other board games? More bang for your buck? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
However, if you want this, that's what you've got to pay, and I don't think it is unreasonable,
no.
given how high quality everything is in it. And like you say, going on to shelf life. Their abstract games live and die on their depth and
Hmm.
how much replayability comes from the skill ceiling, if as it were, and how much you sort of skill that up with your opponent or opponents. And there's a lot of depth here as far as I see it. We played this a fair few times, and I still feel like I'm sort of
Scratching
scratching
the
the
surface.
surface of the depth
Yeah.
of where it will go. So I think from a shelf life perspective, very very good. Will it always hold my interest to make me want to come back to it? I'm not sure. I can't say with an absolute guarantee, like, oh, I'll be playing this forever. I don't know if at some point I will get bored. So that's probably one that I can't absolutely with full confidence go, yes, I'll be playing this forever.
Yeah, but compared to a lot of the abstract sort of strategic games that we've played, I think it will hold its shelf life much longer than a lot of the other ones.
I think you say that, and I'm sure we'll come on to this because I think this one's really captured you.
Mm,
And I don't think I'm not trying to counter your point or say you're wrong or anything, but I think with abstract games, that shelf life is heavily dependent on how well it gels with you and your brain.
mm.
And I mean that for all abstracts. You'll have something that might be more strategically deep, and you'll just go, no, not really for me.
Just like nature, and I like autumn. It's my
You do,
favourite
yes,
season,
yeah,
and I really like mushrooms.
yes.
I really, yeah.
So you have to justify. I'm just saying that I think there's always that mileage will vary with abstract games
Mm.
like this and strategic games like this, where if it really clicks with you, it becomes your chess, doesn't it? You don't want to
Yeah,
let
and it's
go.
funny because we quite often talk about theme and how
Mm.
strong that theme is, and whether it makes coherent, logical sense, and how enjoyable the play experience is because of that.
And a
So
lot of abstracts, it doesn't.
it doesn't. I mean,
Mm.
again, we've reviewed some, so Basilica,
Basilica was
San
just like,
Francisco, where
yeah,
the theme just seems really like left field and out
pasted
there.
on, yeah.
Yeah. And actually just how much that I think then adds to that player experience and what you get
Mm.
out of it, and therefore that level of replayability
Yeah,
and fun, which we'll
sure.
come
Yeah,
to
I mean, I
shortly.
would tend to talk about theme and fun. I will talk about theme and fun, but yeah, I completely get it, and I completely understand how this has captured you, and I completely get when it does capture you that you could just say, oh, "This is a forever game."
Mm.
For me, I wouldn't say I'm on the fence. I'm leaning towards your end of the spectrum, but I'm not sure that I'm fully there in terms of shelf life.
All right, so how did you score it then?
7
Okay,
because of my slight unsureness about how long it'll hold my interest.
so as always, I rate this before I find out about the price point and just my score. But I scored it an 8, and I'm quite happy sticking with an 8.
Sure. Okay. Fine.
And so then, fun.
Mm,
Do we have fun playing it? So I mean, I've already waxed lyrical about how much I like the theme
sure.
and how much how well it looks. But for those of you who've listened to us before, particularly around games that have an element of area control is not my strong point. I don't get it. I don't
No.
understand it.
No.
And so normally something like this would be quite alien to me, and I probably would find it quite frustrating. But for the first time, it's clicked.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Yeah.
I get what I'm supposed to
You do.
do.
Yeah.
And finally, after all these years, it's clicked. And it was this game that made it click for me.
Yeah. Interesting. And
Mm,
yeah. So referring back to games we've looked at in the past is one of the things that I think really made you bounce off Scythe.
yeah. Size.
Was
Size, not size.
whatever pronunciation. I'm South African. Leave me alone. And also why you struggled a fair bit with Terra Mystica, I think, because you have trouble. You had trouble sort of looking at a map and understanding how to control it and punish is a strong word, but make things difficult for your opponent.
Hmm.
Whereas this, you've got it. You didn't get it straight away, but after a few games,
Yeah.
it suddenly clicked for you.
What will be really interesting to see is how well this transfers to other games and whether I've now actually
Whether you
learned that.
now go back to another game and see if that
We're
skill
not
is
going back to
still.
size.
Well,
That's not
no,
happening.
no, I know.
I mean, it's gone.
It's gone.
I burnt it. No, I didn't. Almost.
It's gone to a loving home.
So yeah, for me, this is always going to be quite special, I think,
Yeah,
because it's taught me something
it's
that's
the
taken me
moment.
about 7, 8 years, no, 10 years
Yeah,
to work
it's
out.
just how to get your head around. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's always going to be special to me for that reason. There's also a real element, I think, of it being really satisfying.
Yes, and there's one thing I want to. I mean, I also love this. I find it a lot of fun to play. There's a lot of I know they come from different genres, but you've got your sort of worm spans and things like that, where you have a marketplace and you collect cars and you have resources to pay and you build a little bit of an engine. I find this more satisfying than, for example, Wormspan. And I think it's that area control element. There's that things on a map strategic element to it, mixed with that card buying and engine building that really clicks for me. Like it's given me that missing piece that I was perhaps missing from some of those other games.
So one of the things that perhaps we didn't mention, which maybe we should have done, was that if you move your mother mushroom on top of one of your opponent's
We did mention it.
mushrooms, or did we?
Yeah.
So any of the spores then that are fruited by your opponent then become part of your network.
Oh, we didn't mention that. Yeah, you can
In
basically
which
steal your
yeah, so
opponent's.
you basically can
Mm,
steal all your opponent's resources,
yeah.
which is why area of control becomes quite important because I was just sporing and fruiting everywhere and doing whatever,
Yeah.
and you were nicking them all. It was really, really upsetting. I was like, I'm not growing all of these just for you to spend,
I
though.
was like, that's the rules. I mean, you could do the same thing, but you're not. And then all of a sudden you went, oh.
Oh, I can do that
Yeah,
too.
exactly. But there is that extra element of
Mm,
that sort of tactile usage of things on a map and messing you with your opponent or blocking your opponent. That's so much more pronounced in this than a lot of other games of that ilk. It's definitely not solo you play together. It's got elements of that where you're building your tableau, your engine, whatever you want to call it. But there is that real sort of strategic element of actually placement on the map.
yeah.
Uh, and when you decay your mushrooms, things like you can decay a mushroom, that means any other mushroom you place in that space, you can choose what direction the wind goes when it spores, and you just get more options and more
Mhm.
strategic depth as the game goes on. And that's the secret sauce for me. It's that mixture of those two elements,
Mhm.
and I think this absolutely nails it.
Yeah.
You mentioned theme, so I'll mention theme here. I This doesn't feel pasted on. It doesn't even feel abstract to a certain extent. It's like, okay, this is really good representation of a Mycelia network and managing it. The theme works with the gameplay and the design in a way that I haven't really come across with a lot of other abstracts.
Mhm.
It's not just these often really, really intricate game design elements with something pasted on just to get it out the door. This has really been thought of from the ground up. Um,
Well done. Nice
yeah,
one.
got him. But yeah, I'm very, very impressed by that.
Yeah.
Like really impressed. It really nails a theme which could have been pasted on if in
Mm.
done in a different way. So I find that really admirable.
Yeah. I definitely have a good time when I'm playing it. And yeah, I've got a real sweet spot for this game.
Soft spot.
Yeah. Sweet, soft, earthy, mushroomy, fungusy.
All of the above.
Yes.
So how did you score it for fun then?
So I scored an 8.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. It's really good fun to play.
Yeah.
So, as always, we add those up and we average it out, and that gives a general rating of 8 exactly.
Oh, it's a cracking game.
Yeah, I'm sure you're pleased with that. I
Yeah.
am as well.
Yeah.
It's an 8 out of 10. A solid 8 out of 10.
Okay, so let's move on to our two-player rating scale. So how well does this play as a two-player game? And first up, we have table talk slash getting to know you.
Interaction,
An
basically,
interaction.
in this category.
So we do talk constantly.
Mm,
Either we're explaining what it is that we're doing
yep.
or talking, but I guess that's how we play it. I think you probably could play this game largely in silence.
Yes, you could. I think there's still elements where you have to sort of explain what it is that you're doing. It's quite a thinky experience.
It is.
It's not something that definitely lends itself to loads of conversation. However, there is interactivity, and you do interact with your opponents directly, particularly around the mother mushroom and moving
Yeah.
it and blocking and all that kind of thing. And as a result, increasingly our games, it's a fair amount of trash talk.
No, there is, isn't there?
Yeah. So it is a game that does lend itself to that
Hmm.
to a certain extent. Can it be mean? Kinda. There are elements of the game where you can really screw up your opponent's play.
I mean, we'll talk about this more under competitivity.
Yeah, I suppose.
The word competitivity, competitiveness.
Competitiveness.
That one.
Words are hard.
Yeah.
Put the mushrooms down. um,
Um,
yeah, is it a game that you constantly going to be talking over your turn with your opponent or
and I think because a lot of it as well is about the cards that you have in your hand and what mushrooms you're going to fruit.
Mm,
You do keep things quite close to your chest.
yeah, you need to a certain extent. I
Yeah.
mean, it is a strategic tactical game, so there is that element of, just eyeing your opponent and waiting for their move. And that's to be completely expected in a game of the silk. You're not, you do need to concentrate and you do need to keep things
And that, I
close to your
guess,
chest.
is I think one of the ways this perhaps game has advantages over for me over something like Terra Mystica, which is again about being able to again see your player's board.
Mm,
And again, we'll talk about this I think a bit more later on.
mm,
But also you have to pay attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so it keeps you engrossed in their turn
Mm.
to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Turns are really short and snappy.
Yes,
You
they
only get
are.
two actions per
And you
turn.
can't repeat those actions. I don't say that in the rules, but it's
Well,
worth
unless you get a
mentioning.
specific card that lets you do
Yeah.
that, but you can't repeat those actions. So actually, that play and that that flow between the two of you is quite
Mm.
quick, which means that I think it keeps it feeling fresh
Yeah, yeah.
and allows for more interactivity because of that. Does that make
Yeah, and I think,
sense?
well, yeah, I kind of get what you mean. I think there's enough room tactically. Interesting you mentioned Terra Mystica. I think with big Euro games of that ilk, looking at your opponent's board, sometimes it's like trying to read hieroglyphics. You've got so much going on in your own head. It's just like, I've got no room to analyze what it is you're doing and where you're at.
Hmm.
This is streamlined enough that you can very much keep an eye on your opponent, which again can cause a bit of table talk, a bit of
Hmm.
interactions like, oh, I see what you're doing there, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. So one of the, and again, perhaps it's comes on competitivity, but it's that you
Spell
can.
it with me.
I can't
Competitiveness.
say Skellington either.
No, no, no.
Yeah, there are just some words. I'm very intelligent. There are some words that I can't say. Um, I've lost my train of
She
thought.
says so herself. I'm very intelligent.
I
Internet. Listen and bow to.
still can't believe I just.
Welcome to my TED talk. Um, yeah, I'm absolutely keeping in the. I'm telling the internet how clever I am.
Thing.
It's important to have self confidence, no?
I've now forgotten my point.
Not that intelligent, then, are you?
No, I just don't have a good memory.
Oh, is that? Yeah, that's all mushrooms. So
Anyway, well, maybe we should. How did you score it?
summarize. I gave it a 7. I don't think it is the most table talky interactive experience you can have, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, so I gave it a 6.
Okay, cool.
So then let's talk about how competitive it is.
Yeah, competitiveness.
Yeah, that one.
Super
Yeah.
competitive. Yeah, it's one of these wonderful ones where the more you play it, the more intense it starts to get. It does once you understand the mechanisms and what's possible in the game.
I think
Once you get
there's
to that, sorry, once you get to that magic number six play, you start to really understand everything that you're capable of, and that's when it starts to get really interesting.
And I think then also things like victory point scoring, etc., becomes a little bit more second nature. You understand what it is that you're
Mm.
doing, so it's a lot easier to keep eyes and keep your tab on your opponent. So you that
To a certain extent, what I find really interesting with this one is when you tuck the cards, you can't see how many victory points they have, so you have to memorize what it is your opponent's got had.
one of the things we haven't mentioned, which we probably should have done in the rules, is that your victory points are tallied as soon as you grow that mushroom. You don't have to decay it for those victory
Yes,
points
that's
to count.
important, actually.
So
Yeah,
as long as you have it fruited and it's out there on your board,
yeah,
that still counts to your victory point total. And that I think is also quite interesting because it means that you can pip your opponent. You can steal a victory
yeah,
when actually your opponent thinks, they've got this in the bag, which is
absolutely.
kind of what happened to us last time. Apart from I
Y-
still beat you because I am just awesome
Yeah, I'm
and really
highly,
intelligent.
highly intelligent. Um,
Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
I mean, you said it now. It must be true. Um, yeah, there is that element you kind of know where your opponent's at, but you don't know for sure unless you've got a photographic memory because you have to keep like when we play, I keep an eye, but after a while, I'm not quite sure how much that one was worth, and it's fine margins in this. You're not talking about like 100 victory points versus 50 or anything like that. It's always very very close.
One of the things that you often talk about is it just a race um, to, for example, decaying all your 5 mushrooms? And I think that was one of your concerns about this when we first played it. Because of the variability of
The board, the colours, everything.
yeah, and the value of the cards as
Hmm.
well, which can vary from I think up to 8. I've seen an 8.
Yeah, I think there's an 8.
I think there's a couple
Yeah,
of
I might be
eights,
wrong, but
down
yeah,
to just a couple
twos ones.
twos.
Yeah,
Um, it means you can't just rush this.
you could. I think what's beautiful about this is there's a number of really viable strategies,
Hmm.
but that strategy depends on what's happening. So you have to
Yeah.
pivot. You can't. This is not a game you can solve and go, oh, rushing works in this. So I'm just going to
Mhm.
rush it down, or delaying end game works in this. I'm going to do that. It's very dependent on what's happened during the game, what
Mhm,
cards have come out, where the spores have gone,
mhm.
how much the board has been built out, what your opponent's up to. There's a lot of viable strategies to that, and rushing it down is one because I have done it once really effectively. Like I basically just shut you down completely. It only happened once. So it is a viable strategy, but only in the right circumstances and knowing when that circumstance is. And that's one of the things that makes this very Moorish for me because you don't know which of those bag tricks you need to pull out. It has got a bit like area control with you. I have a little bit of an Achilles heel in board games that I am noticing, and that is player initiated endgame.
Mm,
I quite struggle knowing the right time to call it,
mhm.
and I will either fall foul of trying to rush down and then getting smacked in the face with you having more victory points, or delaying things too long and ending up missing my window. I really struggle with that. I've not quite got my head around it. And I think in the vast majority of our games, you're the one that's initiated endgame because I've been a little bit unsure. But again, it's a skill thing, and that's something you just grow with as you play it more.
I also think, I mean, we kind of touched on this in other categories. What makes this so competitive is again about where you place your mother mushroom. So
Mm,
making sure that your opponent can't fruit or decay their mushroom, about using it to seal their resources. So, for example, within my network, I have no red spores and I really need them for
yeah.
this. So, I tell you what, I'm going to nick all of yours.
Or you've got option, or you can just go, oh, I'll try and build out the board, but then you can try and build out the board and not get what you need. And
Mhm.
even if you get what you need, the win dice might not go in your favour.
Favor, yeah. Or you roll the wind dice and it will roll out into the ether.
Yeah, it can be if it goes off the edge of the
Yeah,
board. You just lose those scores. And what we didn't mention, I didn't mention in the rules, was the wild card tiles.
yeah.
So you get black tiles, which are wild because you can use those spores on those tiles for anything.
But they
And if
can
one
be,
of those is on the board and only one, that ends up being a fight
yeah, a fierce
because
battle.
everybody wants that. You a mushroom on that, and you basically got wild card spores to use every turn.
But
Great.
only twice, because actually you can only fruit your mushroom twice
Yeah, or you can stick your
before
mother
your
mushroom on
mushroom or
there,
whatever it's called. Yeah.
whatever. But your mother mushroom only spores two spores, and you don't get the decaying effect. So there's all this push and pull going on
Hmm.
there. And again, we've had a game where there's been one of those, and it's, you're going to make a beeline for trying to get that square. And then on top of that, you've got the insects,
Hmm.
which I think is a really interesting mechanism because you need to sacrifice actions to pick them up because you've got to be moving your mother mushroom around.
But spending them is a free action.
Spending them as a free action, but it adds that extra layer to it, extra layer of spice to it because public information. I know you've got two insects. Do I bluff my way into making you use them early? Do I create enough nuisance that then I can do something really powerful at the end and then forcing you to use actions to go and pick them up? Like, there's so many
Yeah.
layers to that mechanism, and it just hits. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that aspect of it.
So how did you score it?
I gave it an 8. I cheated towards a 9, but I settled on an 8.
So I gave it a 7, but now we've sat there and talked about it, I think that was a bit mean, and I
Hmm.
think I probably should rate it an 8.
Okay. I mean, is there anything that made you rate it 7? That we perhaps haven't mentioned? Was there any niggles?
No, and I think that's why I'm re-rating it.
Fair enough.
Because
Okay.
it's, Hannah's random scoring isn't
Yeah,
always necessarily consistent. It's just
sure.
how she feels in the moment.
Uh-huh. As a highly intelligent person, I'm glad you can.
As a highly intelligent person, I adjust my views to suit the data. Fuck off.
There you go. Further evidence. Further evidence, listeners. Highly intelligent.
Stop eating it, please.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna go.
Again, let's move on to scalability.
Okay.
Would this be better with more players? 10 out of 10 would be this is banging as a two-player game and you couldn't play it with more or less
Or shouldn't.
or
Yeah.
shouldn't. One being it's desperately crying out for more.
I think this would be a better game with more.
Yeah, so I struggled to know how to score this because it plays really well at two, and I think it's a really solid two-player game. It's one that I would highly recommend to anyone
Hmm.
that doesn't solo play as two-player. That makes no sense. But
Yeah.
shh, quiet,
Okay.
be quiet. I think it's a really, really solid game at two.
It is.
So I couldn't rate it less than a 5.
No.
But it would be more competitive. There would be more interaction. There would be a lot more, I think, with more players around the table.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, I've given it a 5 as well. For precisely that reason. I couldn't give it below a 5 because it is not.
broken.
It's not broken, and it's, as you've heard, as Wax Lyrical, it's a great experience too. So I'm not going to rate it down. However, you say screaming out for more. This is screaming out for more people,
Mm.
to the point that I think I want to have a try at introducing the automata to our games, because there is an automata.
Imagine that either.
No, there is an automata for solo play, but you can also use it to buoy up player numbers. And we haven't at the time really experimented with that.
Felt we needed to. In all
No,
fairness, we've really enjoyed our two-player
but I'd
experience.
like to try it because I have a feeling this might knock it up a further notch. And if it knocks it up a further notch, then this will absolutely become a further game for me.
Mm.
If it pushes that bit more up, then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm fully on board. Probably fair there.
Mm.
But I don't know what the overhead on that's like. I don't know if it's going to interfere with. But it's quite a thinky game. I always worry there's like, oh, it's an extra thing to wonder about. But you compare it to Dune Imperium and the automata that works in that really, really well too.
Mm.
I have a feeling this is so well designed that it's probably going to be quite good.
Mhm.
So I do want to give that a go.
Yeah,
And if we do stick with us and we do end up getting the expansion and come back to it in a
which
bite,
we will because I love this.
yeah, and we come back to it in a bite size, we'll also talk about that then, I think.
Okay. All right.
But for these purposes, yeah, I mean, I think this with, I feel like three,
Yeah, I wonder if four might be a bit much because your board's either going to get very chaotic or it's going to get
very
very
big, or
sprawling.
it's just going to be frustrating because you're
Yeah.
constantly blocked. I don't know, but
I
I feel like three might be the sweet spot
I
for
think
this.
what's really interesting is that we will place tiles, but we
Mm,
don't always place that many. We place maybe
no.
about four,
Yeah,
perhaps.
I only tend to do it when I'm pushed to the edge of the map and I'm
Yeah.
either looking for a colour that would
Hmm.
make my life easier, or I'm a bit penned in and want somewhere
Yeah.
for my spores to go, then I'm not just going to go off the map.
Yeah.
That's the only reasons I tend to do it. Otherwise, I tend to play with the space that's there.
Hmm. But I think when you start talking about four players, then it will just,
That's adding tiles
yeah,
action probably is going to be a lot more valuable. But that's fine. That's cool because the actions take on different values depending
yeah,
on player counts, and that's I've got no issue with that. That's fine.
mm,
But yeah, I had to score this right down the middle.
yeah,
So a five is not a, oh, this is not very good with two. It's meeting that middle point between this is great at two, but probably even better with more.
yeah.
And I feel like it's designed for more than two.
Okay.
That is cool.
All right, so let's add those up.
So that gives us an overall two-player rating of 6.5, which we round to a 7. I am happy with a 7.
I'm happy with a seven, and I do think it would be higher if it weren't for the fact that we think it's,
Probably a bit better with more players.
yeah.
But yeah, like I say, watch the space for bite size in the future because we
Mm,
undoubtedly will pick up the expansion and loop back to this, and then we'll talk about the autonomous there.
indeed.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And until next time, have fun, be good to each other, and play lots of board games.